Here we go. We are up. We are live. And we've got a quick little episode for you guys today because we've got an interview coming up later. That's going to be a lot of fun, but I figured we'd talk about a few things. There were a couple absolutely wild videos that I wanted to talk about. The first one we had was earlier this week. There was an attempted terrorist attack. So what happened was Jake Lang and some protesters were outside of Mondami's, the New York mayor's mansion that he lives in, the socialist living in the mansion. There was this protest going on, and so some counter protesters showed up, some leftists that for some reason or another they've decided they like Mondami, they want their retirement funds raided, they want their taxes raised, and all to have, free buses or something for the homeless people. So these counter protesters show up to really stick it to Jake Lang and the rest of the people standing up for their country. And so what happens is these two ISIS-inspired terrorists work their way into that crowd, and they end up throwing bombs into the crowd of right-wing protesters. And these bombs end up not going off. Nobody's hurt, but the two men are arrested on terrorism charges, hopefully attempted murder. They had planned on committing a terrorist attack bigger than the Boston bombing. That's what they had said. So they threw these, improvised explosive devices out. They don't end up going off. But where the story gets, really interesting is, well, there's two aspects, actually. The first one is Mondami's response. And let me see if I can pull up here exactly what his tweet said. Because essentially what he tries to do is frame the right-wing protesters for this attack, when actually the right-wingers were the victims. So here's what Mondami says here. Insane. He says, yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are. So already he's named somebody. He names Jake Lang. Okay, the guy he can't stand because, he likes limited government, doesn't want a guy like Mondami running New York City. So then Mondami continues. He says, what followed was even more disturbing. He's referring to the terrorist attack. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device to hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. I want to thank the brave men and women of the NYPD who acted quickly to keep New Yorkers safe. Our officers ran towards danger without hesitation, demonstrating once again the courage and dedication it takes to protect this city every single day. Then he declares he's monitoring the situation just to make sure he can really be a meme. But it's those first two paragraphs. Okay, he names the white supremacist, Jake Lang. He says violence at protests is unacceptable. And then he goes right into describing that there was a bomb. No mention of the actual terrorist names that we know. And of course, they have Middle Eastern names. Again, we don't like to use the names of shooters and terrorists here, but what they're clearly Muslim names. And Mondami chooses instead to just name Jake Lang, and he frames that whole tweet to try and frame the right-wing protesters as the violent ones, because he can't tell the truth and say, hey, this was an Islamic terrorist attack, perpetrated against right-wingers. That totally goes against the narrative. And it kind of, plays right into the hands of the protesters like Jake Lang, who are saying, hey, these foreigners that are coming into the city, the foreigners that got Mondami elected, they're violent. They shouldn't be here. And we want New York City to be a safer place. So Mondami he's got to lie. Okay, it's his only move here is to say, hey, I'll throw this tweet out. My followers are stupid anyways. They're going to believe it. They don't really follow the news. They're just going to see, hey, there was a terrorist attack outside Gracie Mansion. There were some right-wingers there. If I just throw this vague enough tweet out, everybody's going to assume, Jake Lang was throwing these bombs or something. So the whole thing's complete lies. And then here's where it gets really interesting. This comedian, I guess, his name's Walt. What do we got here? I don't want to screw his name up. Walter Masterson. Okay. Fairly famous, I guess. He's got a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter. So he happens to be filming himself or having someone film him as he's on a bullhorn yelling, that he's a native-born American and everybody's welcome in the city. Everybody's welcome. As he's yelling this, one of the protesters or one of the terrorists jumps over the top of him, using him as a springboard, and throws a bomb into the right-wingers. Let's see if we can get the video here. Here you go. So this is him right here.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
So there you go. How poetic, right? That Jake Lang is there protesting the leftist immigration policies. This guy is out here saying everyone's welcome. We don't want people coming into our city and telling us, and then that's when the terrorist jumps over the top of him and throws a bomb. Someone literally coming outside the city, the terrorists, okay, they're not from New York City, coming in and throwing bombs at New Yorkers protesting their communist mayor. So you would think this guy, okay, after going absolutely viral, would stand up and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm going to reevaluate my positions. I'm a native-born New Yorker, and I'm here counter-protesting my fellow New Yorkers, and this terrorist who I'm defending here, in essence, the immigration policy, at least that brought this guy here, I'm defending. He uses me as a springboard to throw bombs at these right-wingers. Totally proving the right-wingers' point. You would think he would stand up and be like, you know what? I didn't realize, how close to home this issue could hit. After being used as a literal prop by this terrorist, attacking fellow Americans, I've decided to reevaluate my position. And these people who are being brought in from all sorts of different parts of the world where violence is extremely common and, religious fundamentalism, where people can be ISIS inspired pretty quickly. Maybe I should back off on these views. Maybe I've decided, hey, maybe these right-wingers have a point. But no, of course not. Because not even going viral for being a literal prop for terrorists could change a committed leftist mind. Again, this dude totally lost. I don't even know what to say. Let me read some of his tweets here. After this video goes completely viral. So people are absolutely clowning him for, how poetic it is that he's standing there saying everybody's welcome in the city, and the people he welcomed in are then throwing bombs over the heads over his own head towards protesters. He says, I still stand by it. As a born and raised New Yorker, everyone is welcome, except for Jake Lang. He has some profanity in there too. So he's still, even after Jake Lang has the bombs thrown at him by the terrorists, okay, this guy says, nah, we're going to continue to let the terrorists in. It's Jake Lang we don't want here. I want to know, genuinely, a fairly young white dude, what is it in these kind of like feminine liberal guys that makes them hate themselves and their race so much that they want to bring in terrorists to their city instead of other people that, look just like them, share their values, their culture, their shared history? What is it? Why do these leftists want terrorists from the Middle East instead of their own countrymen? I genuinely don't understand the level of self-hate and weakness you have to hold that position. As a terrorist jumps over your head and throws a bomb in your own city, to stand up afterwards and just be like, nah, man, it was the protesters. Those guys are the problem. And then, of course, this Walter guy goes on to, call the protesters that ran a bunch of pussies because, they ran from the bomb. And Walter, he's a big guy. He didn't run from the bomb, and that's, how brave he is. He says everyone around was laughing. Okay, it's kind of a weird reaction to, nearly being killed by terrorists, but whatever. He then goes on, he gets community noted, okay, saying that again, to that tweet, calling everyone that didn't run pussies because the FBI, came in, determined that these bombs were legitimate. Everyone was lucky that they did not go off, but these were real bombs. And, running for your life is probably the correct thing to do when a bomb is thrown at your feet. So he gets community noted. He has to delete the tweet and say, hey, sorry for, all that about, not running from the bombs. That was kind of stupid. He's essentially bragging about having the worst survival instincts you could possibly imagine. He's like, yeah, maybe that was a bad idea to stand around next to the bomb that was just thrown, laughing with the rest of my communist buddies. Like, yeah, no shit, dude. But that's kind of like the whole point. Like, these people have no survival instincts. That's the point. They would be just fine with their own culture and civilization being stomped out into nothing by foreigners. That's the whole point. They detest their own people. That's what this whole thing is about. And I don't know where it comes from. If it's just white guilt, if it's just this like culture of, feminizing men and just this kind of like self-hatred. It's a racial self-hatred. It's like a national self-hatred. These people aren't patriotic. They don't love America. They don't love their families. They don't love themselves. They can't. How could you? If you hate yourself based on your own race and nationality, how do you love your kids? How do you love your parents? None of this makes any sense. This whole, nihilistic way of thinking doesn't make any sense. So it's shocking to me, really. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. This is kind of a theme moving forward as the left gets this opening to populism. It's going to be interesting to see how they play it, because they could continue to be like this guy and, take the side of terrorists and, just be completely defenestrated by their own actions, really. But they have this opening for a stronger Democrat to step forward and kind of push all this stuff to the side, marginalize it, and bring the Democrats into the new era of populist politics. An opportunity they had with Bernie Sanders and completely squandered. We've talked about ad nauseum on here, but it's just such an interesting phenomenon. I'm going to see if this guy has, he then continues to just go on and bash, Jake Lang and plug his Patreon and all this just garbage. But I don't know. I can't even begin to get into the mind of somebody that hates themselves that much, that they would still go on to defend terrorists. Just like, and you kind of get it from Mondami, like he has to defend the terrorists. Those are his people. That's who he identifies with more than, any American whose family's been here, 200 years. That's not who he cares about. He cares about the terrorists coming here from Libya, because he clearly defends. He clearly frames the right-wing protesters, okay, for the terrorism committed by the people he cares about more. The foreign-born New Yorkers got him elected. That's his constituency. Those are his people. Those are the only ones he cares about. He doesn't care about, New Yorkers like Walter. He doesn't give a shit about them. Walter's the oppressor, and he sees himself that way. So, of course, the communist mayor's going to see him that way, too. It's this whole twisted identity politics thing. It's just so fucking weird. And again, the self-hatred, man, it's weird. If you're a man that hates yourself that much, I mean, you're not even really a man at that point. You're just kind of this weak, self-hating shell of what you could be. It's kind of tragic. And with self-hatred, we're actually going to move on to Lindsey Graham, who dropped this bomb of a video on us. And because we're kind of moving back into the Iran topic now, let's take a look at Lindsey Graham here, one of our favorite politicians. I'm kidding, of course, but let's get this up here. All right, here we go. Lindsey Graham, everybody. Let's see how he feels about his own countrymen versus foreigners.
I don't believe. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander-in-chief in President Trump, who I think is Ronald Reagan plus.
So listen to this beginning again. Okay, he's talking about Israel, who he said he's going to stand with till his dying breath. And listen again to who he says he's not with.
I don't believe. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel.
It's cut off a little bit, but that first word he says right there is the isolationists. So the people he wants to smear, the Americans who don't want to go to war in the Middle East for Israel, that's who he's smearing here. And he's going to listen to how he describes Israel compared to Americans.
With Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander-in-chief in President Trump.
Till his dying day, he's going to defend Israel, but he is not with isolationist Americans. It's hard to even respond to that. What do you say about a politician who just openly hates you? First of all, the isolationist thing. Most of the anti-war people now are not isolationists. Okay, no one is wanting to cut off trade with, Europe or Mexico or anything like that. Most of these people just want, that he smears as isolationists, want zero immigration or near zero immigration, since we've had millions and millions of illegal immigrants over the last few years. Okay, and they want an end to just the blanket free trade. We can get, more into that. Not isolationism. Okay, we still want to trade with people, but we want fair trade, not free trade. And then finally, we don't want any more wars in the Middle East. No regime change wars. It's that simple. You don't have to be an isolationist to believe in those things. I call it more common sense, but Lindsey Graham call it whatever he likes. He wants to smear these people as isolationists. Okay, even if you're Lindsey Graham, and you don't like these people who oppose your, foreign wars for whatever reason, how are you going to go on Fox News and just openly say you're going to stand with foreigners till your dying day, but you're not with the Americans? You're not with your own people. I'm assuming he represents a state with, millions of people. I'm assuming some of them even are self-described isolationists. He doesn't stand with them, his own constituents. He stands with the foreigners, the Israelis, because they're the best ally we can have. And I don't even want to get into why they're not the best ally we could ever have, how they've pushed us into multiple foreign wars at the detriment, I should say, to the detriment of the United States and to their own benefit, making them not a good ally. That's a bad thing, by the way. We have, again, no interest in regime change in Iran. We've changed one Ayatollah Khomeini for another. It's so shocking to me that you could go on Fox News and say, I will stand with Israel till my dying day. I don't stand with the isolationists, the Americans. It's just, at that point, how do you describe somebody like that other than you're just like a traitor to your own country? The people that you're supposed to be representing, you don't care about. You don't care about representing Americans. You care about representing foreigners. You're not even an American anymore then. If you care more about that country, just go there. Just go. You can be in the Knesset and represent Israel there. You don't even have to be in the United States Senate anymore. Just give up your seat, Lindsey Graham. Give it to somebody who gives a shit about America and is America first, not Israel first. This is so, it's insane that it has to be said, and that people like Lindsey Graham are comfortable going on national television and talking like this. No politician in our country should be comfortable getting up on the news and saying they represent any country before Americans. Even Americans they happen to disagree with. Because he's not even making the case here that this war in Iran is good for America somehow. He's not even making the case that, the people he's calling isolationists, really the anti-war people, are wrong. He's just saying it's in Israel's best interest, and that's okay because I'm with them till my final breath. That's who I'm with. And at that point, you kind of gotta respect the chutzpah to be okay. You're not even going to try and make the argument this is good for America anymore. Well, thank you for at least, telling us the truth. It's pretty ballsy to get up there and tell the truth like this, but hey, hats off to you for at least, not lying right now. He lies plenty. So I'm sure he's, used up his quota of lies for the week. He had to get in a little truth here. But man, how just shocking is that? A United States senator getting up there and saying he's going to stand with another country to our dying breath because some bullshit about them being our, greatest ally or something. Okay, whatever. I think we've prosecuted that case on this show many times, but so we're not going to get into it again. But I know this has been a short one. We're going to be back to you guys with another episode this week. Thanks for tuning in.